Welcome, my children. Gather around and listen to a tale that will chill your bones. This is a story from 1967 about a haunted lake in Romania, where the ghost of a dead woman appears at night, luring people to their doom. This story was told to me by a dear friend of mine from the army who experienced it firsthand. My friend, Mihai, was a brave soldier, but even the bravest men have their limits when it comes to the supernatural. It all started when Mihai was stationed near a remote village in the Carpathian Mountains, close to a mysterious lake that the locals avoided at all costs. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Mihai and his comrade Peter were sitting by the fire, sharing stories to pass the time. The villagers had warned them about the lake, but they brushed off the tales as mere superstition. "Do you really believe in these ghost stories, Mihai?" Peter asked, laughing. "I've seen many things in my life, Peter. Who's to say what's real and what's not?" Mihai replied, staring into the dancing flames. The night grew darker, and a thick fog began to roll in from the lake. The air grew colder, and an eerie silence settled over the camp. Suddenly, they heard a faint, mournful wail coming from the direction of the lake. "Did you hear that?" Peter asked, his voice trembling. "It's probably just the wind," Mihai said, trying to sound brave, but even he could feel a chill run down his spine. As the night wore on, the wailing grew louder, more insistent. Unable to ignore it any longer, Mihai and Peter decided to investigate. They grabbed their flashlights and rifles and headed toward the lake, the fog thickening with every step. When they reached the lake's edge, they saw a figure standing in the water. It was a woman, her long, wet hair clinging to her pale face. Her eyes were empty voids, and she wore a tattered white dress that floated around her like a shroud. "Who are you?" Mihai called out, his voice echoing across the still water. The woman didn't respond. Instead, she raised her arms and beckoned them closer. Mesmerized, Peter took a step forward. "Peter, don't!" Mihai shouted, grabbing his friend's arm. "We should leave." But Peter seemed to be in a trance, his eyes fixed on the ghostly figure. "I have to help her," he muttered, breaking free from Mihai's grip. As Peter waded into the water, the woman vanished beneath the surface. Without thinking, Peter dove in after her. Mihai watched in horror as his friend disappeared into the murky depths. "Peter!" Mihai yelled, but there was no response. The water remained still, and the fog closed in around him. Desperate, Mihai ran back to the village, banging on doors and shouting for help. The villagers emerged, their faces pale with fear. They knew what had happened. "The ghost has claimed another victim," an old woman said, shaking her head. "She won't rest until she has her revenge." Mihai demanded to know more. The villagers reluctantly told him the story of the lake. Many years ago, a young woman named Elena had drowned there, betrayed by her lover. Heartbroken and full of rage, her spirit had cursed the lake, vowing to drag men to their watery graves. "How can we stop her?" Mihai asked, his heart heavy with guilt. "There is no stopping her," the old woman replied. "But there is a way to appease her spirit." The villagers led Mihai to a small shrine near the lake, where they placed offerings of flowers and lit candles. Mihai prayed for his friend's soul, hoping that Elena's spirit would find peace. That night, Mihai returned to the lake alone. He stood at the water's edge, clutching a locket that had belonged to his mother. As he threw the locket into the lake, he whispered a prayer for Elena. Suddenly, the water began to ripple, and Elena's ghostly figure emerged once more. But this time, her expression was different. There was a sadness in her eyes, a longing for something lost. "Why do you torment us?" Mihai asked, his voice breaking. Elena's spirit hovered above the water, her voice a soft whisper. "I seek justice," she said. "I was betrayed and left to die. My soul cannot rest until my lover's blood stains this water." Mihai realized what needed to be done. He needed to find the man who had wronged Elena and bring him to justice. With the villagers' help, he tracked down the man, now old and frail, living in a nearby town. When Mihai confronted him, the man confessed his sins, his voice trembling with fear. "I was a coward," he said. "I left her to die because I was afraid." Mihai dragged the man to the lake, forcing him to face the ghost of his past. As the man fell to his knees, Elena's spirit rose from the water, her eyes blazing with fury. "You will pay for your betrayal," she hissed, her voice echoing through the night. With a final scream, the man was pulled into the lake, disappearing beneath the surface. The water bubbled and churned, then grew still once more. Elena's spirit turned to Mihai, her expression softening. "Thank you," she whispered. "My soul can finally rest." As dawn broke, the fog lifted, and the lake returned to its serene state. Mihai felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He had avenged his friend and brought peace to a tortured soul. And so, children, that is the story of the cursed lake in Romania, a tale of betrayal, vengeance, and redemption. Remember, there are forces in this world that we cannot see, but they are always there, watching and waiting. Be careful where you tread, for the past has a way of catching up with us all. Now, for more stories like this, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Go with God, my children. Until the next story, farewell from your grandpa Avram.